अब खुलेगा किस्सों का पर्चा जब होगी चाय पे चर्चा। चाय पे चर्चा विद आरजे सौम्या ओनली ऑन रेडियो टिश्यू।
नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल, सलाम। इस वक्त जुड़ चुके हैं आप चाय पे चर्चा पे। मैं हूँ सौम्या मिश्रा और मेरे साथ हैं यहाँ पे एक ऐसी हस्ती जो आज हमारे साथ चर्चा करेंगे बहुत खास विषय पर, शॉन बिंदा जी, who talks a lot about Hinduism and he does a great job at breaking some of the common myths that people may not know about. So Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to congratulate you and I really want to thank you because in this busy world where nobody has time for other people, you actually take a moment. And when I say moment, I know that moment on Instagram looks like a moment, but how much hard work goes behind making that moment, right? So thank you for taking time out from your life, everyday life, where you could do so much other things, actually taking the time to clarify so many common myths that people may not know about Hinduism. And it's very good to bring the knowledge back, which we've lost over generations because of everything that we had to endure.
Thank you very much for the kind words. I sort of see it as my own sewa, a way of giving back to all those that came before me. And I sort of stumbled upon this path that you found me on. But my history does go beyond that, and we could get into that here.
So yes, let's begin first by knowing where you come from and what are the incidences that made you take this path?
Sure. So I was born and raised in the city of Toronto. My parents are from the island of Trinidad and Tobago, and they immigrated from Trinidad, which is just off the coast of South America, and they came to Canada in the 1970s. And myself and my siblings were all born here in the city. And my father was the founding president of the Devi Mandir, which is located in Pickering, Ontario. So my entry into Hinduism was certainly attending Mandir on a regular basis, participating in satsangs. I taught tabla there as well. And then as I got older, I got more involved within the Mandir community, and I started teaching Bal Vikas, which is the classes that we teach to young kids. And I started teaching them in 2012. And it was them that actually spurred me on, because in the process of teaching, it was also a way for me to educate myself even further. And the more that I taught, the more that I wanted to learn. And I eventually started teaching more and more. And they were the ones that kind of told me, you should do more with what you're doing. And at first, I didn't really understand why. And we're talking like 2012, 2013. So social media was sort of coming up there. Facebook was there. Instagram had sort of just started. And then I sort of had an idea in 2015, 2016 that maybe I should take whatever I'm teaching and talking about and start putting videos on YouTube. So I did start my YouTube channel, Hindu Lifestyle. And at that time, YouTube was growing, and I posted consistently for about 2 years. And then I had kids after that. And then I was off social media for about 5 years. And then in 2023, I came back. And in the process of making videos, it started off a lot of education content, as you said. But lo and behold, what you do notice is that in the comments and in what people are saying, you start realizing that there are people that don't see the things that you see, and then they want to critique, and then they want to criticize. And then what it became more of is, yes, still making educational content, but trying to put out a viewpoint, a voice, a Hindu voice, one that born in North America, just articulating what our tradition means to us, why it's not some type of where we are snake charmers or anything like that. It's just that this is who we are, this is what we believe, and we should never be ashamed of that. And I think a lot of what I encounter on social media is all of this sort of Hindu phobia in a sense, but it's ingrained in us, is that sometimes we find out we're just a little bit ashamed, is that we shouldn't make too much of a spectacle. And a lot of what brought me to you was the comments in the reel that was made in relation to the Ganga Aarti on the Credit View River, which is why we're here today.
Yes. Oh my God, what an Aarti that was. I have to say this was the third year that we were doing it. And Shawn, I will say this, every year I do that. Again, you may think I'm a little cynical, but I'm a believer in science, okay? Like God gives me signs, nature gives me signs. It was supposed to rain that day, starting 5 p.m., okay? And I prayed. But again, I was like, okay, we will go there. If it rains, we will just come back. We will still go to the park. That was our plan. And we didn't promote the event because last year the same exact thing happened. A lot of hate post event on social media with all kind of baseless comments. But how much can you explain to people? And the sad part was that most of the comments were coming from people who are residing in Bharat, right? So how much can you explain? So we decided we'll just do it quietly for the people who genuinely want to attend, who've registered, who are regular attendees. We'll do it and we'll come back. But the weather was fabulous. No rain. The moment we reached our home, it started raining. So we were there to pray to the nature. The nature actually gave us the route. How in Ramayana, Sagar Devta tells them a way to go through it, to Lanka. Similarly, I think God showed us the path to do this one, but it was fabulous. The weather was amazing. The environment was amazing. It was not a lot of crowd, not overwhelming amount of crowd, which was the case in the first year, where we learned that we don't want to have a lot of surplus crowd. We just want to have true people who are there to meditate and find peace, because that is the whole purpose of Ganga Aarti, right? And also one more lesson that I learned through the first year, like, of course, you do things that you see other people doing, right? So everybody has food vendors. I thought people will be there in the park for 5-6 hours. It's a picnic style event. Some people have like diabetes and whatnot. So I will have some food vendors. And then after the event, I realized that we generated a lot of garbage, Shawn, right? And I am a sustainability freak. Okay. When I was wrapping up the garbage bags to throw them away, I counted them and it was way too many. And when you're coming to worship the nature, it is like basically counterproductive, right?
Mhm.
Then next year I sat down, I said, guys, we are having 0 vendors. Everybody in my team was like, you're insane. Why? We will have no sponsors. Vendor is the only way how we are going to break even. And it's like, I don't care. I will put the money from my pocket. I'm not going to be bothered by it. I am not going to have any vendors. We will send out emails to the attendees that bring your own mats, bring your own chairs, bring your own food, and bring your own water bottle. I am not generating any more garbage. So second year, when we actually got the hate, we had no vendors. So when there are no vendors, there is no litter, no food waste, nothing. And we don't even distribute like leaves or chawal or akshat or anything to the attendees. They are on that side. Nobody's allowed to light anything, no diyas. And then we were like, wow, we did a great event. We only generated 3 bags of garbage. We are amazing. And we have set a prototype model. And then boom, on social media.
Yeah.
It goes like, what we have done is just completely opposite. It's being portrayed just completely opposite. So this year we did the same thing. And amazingly, Shawn, we only produced, like there was 700 people for sure that attended the event. And because we had packets of prasad, counted number of packet of prasad, and in my mind I thought only 200 people will attend, so I only made 500 packets, so that we I always like to have double of everything. So we ran out of it, and we still had so many people who were there left without any prasad. So we know at least 700 people attended it, and we had only 2 large black garbage bags that we generated, and they were not even full completely. So to me, I think that was a victory, because we were celebrating the nature and there was no garbage. So there is no cleanup necessary. But park authorities were there with us. I insisted that they come and watch the event and give their actual unbiased input as to should we be doing this. Because sometimes I feel when we do things, we get trapped into, like your reel says, you get trapped in your own ego. And I don't want to be that person who's trapped in the ego. So I wanted somebody who doesn't understand this, come and watch it and tell me what you think about it. Should I be doing it? And park authorities were there. They watched it. They saw the process of us setting up. They saw the process of tearing down. And they said, why would you not want to do it? What is wrong in this? So I think that was the total positive on that side. But coming back to the comment, Shawn, did you happen to read all of them?
So this is the problem is that when you start looking into things, like it's just this black hole that you start sinking deeper and deeper and deeper. And when I'm reading it, the thought that there's many things. I am quite used to seeing a lot of hate stuff in the comments, but that's more so from people that are non-Indian, non-Hindu, and they're just saying the standard like tropes that you would say against Hindus. But then you have the comments that start off saying, as a Hindu, and then they go and they start talking about things that they wouldn't do, and why are we doing this for, and we're giving such a bad name to Hindus. And like my first gut reaction is that the people commenting don't seem to understand how Hinduism can translate to whatever country you find yourself in. And I always go back to my own experiences growing up. Like as I mentioned to you earlier, is that my family has never been to India. My parents have never been to India. But yet somehow these traditions, something like Ganga Aarti, you can do at any river, and it's what the river represents to us as Hindus. And while it's physically not that river, yes, I understand Ganga is a physical river in India, but the same reverence that we have is what is the reason why we do it. And there are so many comparisons that you can make to us living in Canada with the Aboriginals and the Indigenous, about how they have so many rituals towards nature that Hinduism fits right into that as well, which is why when there's a lot of comments coming from people in India probably as well, saying that we're giving a bad name to Indians and Hindus around the world, and we're polluting this. And I hear all the work that you did to make sure that none of this was happening. It kind of makes me wonder, I'm like, what are you guys even talking about? And then the second point that I come to is that a lot of people don't understand how people that left India for whatever reason, how they connect to that tradition. And I think that's the most frustrating part, is that a lot of people stay within their own circle and they don't tend to expand outwards. And that's why when I got to know about how your experience in Mauritius, how that influenced you to do it here, I'm like, that's exactly what I've been saying, is that Hindus and Indians around the world have found ways to connect, because when our kids and grandkids get older, they're not going to have that direct experience, but that doesn't mean that it has to stop there.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the comments and the hate, I did read it, and it's frustrating, and you have to sometimes take it in through one ear and out the other. But I also believe there comes a point where you also have to address it in some manner, and I think that's where the balance is, and I think that's and you also can't get bogged down by it, because if you allow the comments to stop you doing what you did after your second year, then you wouldn't have had a third year, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I tip my hat to you, is that yes, you'll always have those people, and you just continue doing it. You follow the laws of the land, and I think this is what people were saying too, is that, do you understand what they did? You know, they went and they spoke to the city. They explained what they were doing. They got the permit. They had people there. What's your problem then? And then when they don't have an answer to that, you can kind of see that their problem is more so is that a lot of people are probably uncomfortable with an outward expression, right?
Yes.
They're willing to keep it within their country, that, like say for India, because that's what's known there. But to express that in another country, now that's where the conversation becomes harder.
And Sean, I don't know about you, but I went to a school that was founded by the British. Okay.
Same.
So when you go to a school like that, in childhood, I come from a traditional Brahmin family in Uttar Pradesh. Okay. What that means is my dad very glamorously wore a dhoti and a kurta and a trupund and a janev every day, Surya, giving arg to the Surya. That was my dad. Okay. But in the morning, I would dress up in this proper uniform, go to the school, and I was not allowed to put a bindi. If I put a bindi, I was called a beggar. If I put on chudis, I would be called dehati, gawar, terms like that by the teachers themselves in the school. And shamed to the point where I was ashamed of my own traditions. But had my dad not been the person he was, he was like, okay, Rome as the Roman, like when you roam in Rome, you know that saying, it's not coming.
Yeah. Do as the Romans do. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, that one. He would always say that. And he said that it's okay when you're in school, follow the rules. But once you take off your school shoes outside the house, you are no longer bound by those rules. So the shoes out and inside, new rules apply. Follow the home rules. He was very particular about it. And I think when I moved to Canada and I had my son, suddenly the need to understand that rule kicked in a lot more, because I realized that I was in the same exact spot where my son didn't speak any Hindi. He didn't understand anything. I remember one day one day suddenly I saw all my god idols sitting on the floor. Okay. And my son was 2.5 years old. And I got mad at him. I was like, what have you done? Why did you put them on the floor? Like a typical Indian mom reaction, right? And when I sat down to think, I thought he thinks they're toys. Because with Nandi ji, he's like going, ooh, with Nandi ji,
Yeah.
like a toy, right? And then I realized it's not his fault, it is mine. Because he plays with everything else in the house as a toy. So to him, this is a toy. It is my job to tell him that they may look like toys, but in our mind, they are deities and we have to pray to them. So I am the one who's lacking the job. I have to set an example of praying every single day. And then when I visited Mauritius, is when I realized that today I am there to teach my son. I may be there to teach my grandkids. But what after that?
Yeah.
After hearing all the stories from all the indentured laborers who were like left behind in Mauritius and fifth generation people meeting me, I did a tiny play there. It was about Hanumanji. And for them, Hanumanji is very important, right? So after the play was done, people were in tears, they were crying, they were hugging me. It was the smallest play, to be honest, Sean. It was not like a very elaborate play. It was a very short 7-minute play. And hugging me, and then they said that they kept showing me places on the map and kept telling me, do you know this village? Do you know, have you heard this name? It made me so sad, Sean. It made me really feel very sad that this is probably my descendants' future, right? So I decided that there were two ways to go about it. One, find a connection in Bharat. Or second, I decided to move to Canada. When I decided to move to Canada, it meant was that I knew that this is going to happen. It was a conscious decision on my part. When I moved to Canada, it was my decision. So then I had to set up something where my kids and grandkids and great grandkids don't have to go back to Bharat. They will have their own ways here. They will merge with the Canadian culture, but still be Hindus.
Yeah.
Right? When I left India, I didn't promise anyone I'm no longer going to be a Hindu. That was not a condition. Right, I was free to be whoever I was, and that's exactly what I was doing on the. But again, the problem is people oftentimes are too ashamed of who they are.
Yes.
Stop being that. Make a choice and let others be who they are. Don't be ashamed for other people on their behalf. Right? Like, I'm not ashamed of who I am. Please don't be ashamed for me.
Yeah, and I think you raise a very good point. Is that we have to be able to contextualize Hinduism to wherever we're living. And this view that when you go to any other country that you can't seemingly integrate your Hindu practices into the country that you're in kind of goes against the grain of what it means to be Hindu as a universal Sanatan, as a universal tradition. You should be able to, and I think that's a lot of what the conversations that I've had in the last number of years is that there are many people that do find it strange that I, being born in Canada, don't speak Hindi. My parents are from Trinidad, and we've been so far removed from the Hindu tradition in India. Yet you go to Mauritius, you go to Trinidad, you go to Guyana, and you see that there is an enduring nature of Hinduism, that there's something in there that makes people want to carry it on. And I think that
it's like a time capsule.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think what you have experienced is what my ancestors experienced, is what I go through now, because now with kids of my own, I'm saying the same thing. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen 3 generations from now, but all I can do now is focus on working in the present. And I think the Aarti that was organized is one such thing. And it was said in the comments too, is that many people may not have a chance to go to India to experience Ganga Aarti. And yes, you can make the argument that with air travel now it becomes easier, but sometimes it may just not happen. So why can't you do the same thing with the rivers here? And you take Ganga, that universal river, that what she represents to the Hindu civilization, and you apply it to your local rivers. I see absolutely nothing wrong with it, which is why when you encounter these comments, just the hate from your own Hindus, it just boggles my mind. It really does.
I was like one constant comment. So last year they talked a lot about us polluting everything. So this year we were very thorough in documenting that we did not pollute anything. On the contrary, there is a sustainable way of doing many things, right? I always, Shawn, you will not believe, but when we do our rehearsals, all my team carries their own steel plates. And we have if you don't have a plate, then you will borrow from someone and give them $5 as a fine for not remembering to carry a plate, but you will carry your own reusable plate. Nobody, like literally people eat in container lids if they don't have a disposable, their reusable plates, but they will not be handed a disposable plate. For a reason, because then if 50 people are meeting twice a week, every single time, it's 100 plastic plates that we're throwing away, right? 100 plastic cups, 100 plastic, even more than that, and plastic spoons. I don't want to be the person causing that. So it's small lifestyle changes. And where does that come from? That comes from me being a Hindu, right? That comes from the way I saw my grandmother do things, right? The Hindu way of living things. I remember my great-grandfather had a big plate that my dad would tell me about, that, oh, he had his own plate, his own katori, and he would have name, nobody else was allowed to eat in it. And my dad would follow the same style. What that meant is anytime he traveled, he would take his plate, he would take his glass, he would take everything in his bag, and he would only eat in that. Now, this is Hinduism in the purest form. No show, no elaborate display of anything, just being basic and making sure you're not impacting the environment. So this year, when we followed all of those rules, they came with a new idea. And this question from me to you is, they say, what's the point of doing an aarti on a river? And I will add a few more questions in the same one, because I want to know your view on this as well. So the comment is, what's the point of doing an aarti on a river? Now they're going to turn Credit River into Ganga. Is Ganga now running in Canada? And one comment that actually personally affected me was that you are being disrespectful to the Credit River itself by doing the Ganga Aarti on it. So what is your thought on that?
So number one, why do Aarti to Credit River? So, okay. So I think as Hindus, everyone sort of has this understanding is that we're very much tied to nature, right? Nature doesn't just exist in the country of India, right? Yeah. Nature exists wherever you live. That is the world, the universe that we're a part of. If you are living in a country and you see a river, would you not revere that river in the same manner that you would in India? That's the whole premise of this whole thing. Yeah. Is that wherever you settle, that becomes your place of birth. That becomes the place where you choose to live. Then you would treat that surrounding area in that same manner. The problem is that we live largely in a Western society where we have now separated nature from human life, from day-to-day living. And I think that's the problem that we have, is that in an attempt to modernize Hinduism, the very same Hindus would be like, well, why do you have to do that for, right? You should only do pujas in the four walls of your home, or if there's a mandir that you go to, keep it contained in the walls of the temple. And I guess this is where now we get to this uncomfortable position, is that people are probably happy just doing their puja within their own home. But the minute they have to step outside, they don't want to take that practice out. So there is some type of internal shame that they may have. And I think that's the struggle that many people who feel uncomfortable with it face. So number one, any river should be revered. And I think if more people, Hindu or not, treat nature in that way, then I think, we as a society will be that much better off. The whole idea of turning Credit River into Ganga seems to be just a way to bash Hindus. Now, I think everyone knows that there's a lot of pollution in the rivers in India, and you could probably spend a whole podcast just going into the reasons why. And a lot of people want to say it's because of Hinduism that it's polluted. But then that statement falls apart when you actually read any scripture or you listen to any mantra and you understand what the mantra is trying to say, is that there is this the sense that we are connected to everything. And when you talk about the pollution in the river, I think you have to turn to just modern society and the laws and what happened and corporations that are allowed to put sewage and everything else in the water. And I think this is where living in Canada gives us a different perspective, is because we don't have the baggage that India has. Because when you talk about a country that is trying to modernize itself and pull itself out of a lot of the bureaucracy to solve these civic issues, Canada already has that firm foundation. So that makes it even easier for Hindus to actually do these pujas, because now you have a place where the environment is pristine. And if we are treating it the way you are, I don't see anything wrong with it. The final point that I want to make is that all the rivers and waters in this earth are connected. Yeah. There is no river that does not meet the ocean.
Yeah.
Because if there wasn't, then it wouldn't be called a river.
Yeah.
So at some point, all of these waters are connected. And I think that if you don't have an opportunity to visit India for whatever reason, there's no reason why you can't do Aarti and treat the Credit River as your Ganga, because that's what indentured laborers did. Any body of water, whether it be in Mauritius or Trinidad or Guyana, in Guyana, they have a confluence of 3 rivers that they themselves call the Triveni Sangam. Is it the same one that is in India? Of course not. Yeah. But when indentured laborers went to India and they saw the confluence of 3 separate rivers, it's like they were seeing what they knew, and they adopted that the same way. To me, I see no issues in it whatsoever.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I feel like there's a lot of misconception, and it's easy to blame Hindus for everything. And again, I have to say this, that throwing stuff in the river is not the right answer. Okay, I'm not defending anybody who's polluting. Pollution, the route to pollution is excess garbage generation. The step 1 is don't generate it, right? Second thing is, if we are easy targets. Third thing is, please actually look into the issues. There are so much dumping that is done in the river by the industries, and industries were brought to India by the British, which still, like the textile, Ganga, on the entire bank of Ganga, if you actually see, all the dumping is done by textile, leather, chemical factories. Right? And nobody will take a moment to blame that industrialization, which is the modernization. The Hindu way of living, just go and look at the Ganga, maybe before 1800s. Research a little bit before that and see how bad the river was done before starting to blame Indians for being pigs, pagans, and pollution freaks, right? We were none of those things. We were called pagans because we lived in sync with the nature. And to many, it may seem like a name that may be branding in a negative sense. But for somebody who doesn't get affected by negativity, I think, okay, fine, that's what you think it is. But we still know how to live with nature. Right? We don't have, and I'll give you a very fun fact, Sean. I recently read about this. So, the front yard that we have here, which has like this pristine grass and the grass seeds that every season we put in our front yard. You know what that was? British way of showing off that I have so much land that I can just waste this entire lawn space
on grass
to show that I'm not going to grow anything in it. Nobody knows the reason why things are done, but we continue to do stupid things.
Yeah.
We continue to go with a weed whacker every spring and be like, oh, these yellow flowers are horrible. Those yellow flowers that you take out as weeds are very critical, and they are very healthy for us. They are seasonal, and seasonal greens and seasonal veggies are very important to us as humans, right? So it is good for your body hormone balancing. It is good for your mental health. It is good for your gut health and inflammation, right? After having a very bad winter, your body needs a little bit of release with those yellow flowers. I'm forgetting the name. What is it? Dandelions.
Dandelions, yeah.
Dandelions. So again, this is why I always keep telling people, before you hate, research, read, understand, and maybe things the way we understand it is slightly different, right? And I like to always take opinions, Sean. I was beginning to doubt myself, and I am a person who doesn't like to have an ego. And I'm scared because I'm a Brahmin. Sometimes I'm like scared I may turn into Ravan because of my ego. So I always like to sit back and think that, am I doing it because I am being pushed in a corner and I'm fighting my way through, or is this what I truly believe in? Right? Because I don't want to be fighting a battle where I'm wasting my energy. I'm more of the believer that there are many battles to be fought, and if this is truly what I believe in, only then I will fight it. So my I think last question for the day is that continuing to do Ganga Aarti, is this something that should be done?
100%. 100%. There is no reason to stop it, regardless of the comments and the hate. The fact that you got 700 people out there speaks to the fact that there are people that want to see things like this happen, provided that, of course, you're following within whatever is allowed by the city and the country and the province that you live in. I think that any type of occasion or event where you can show your reverence to nature goes a long way of imprinting Hindu values into the next generation. And I think that's the most important thing. So your kids and the kids that attended it, while they may be running around and they may be seeing, there's something that's going to be left in their mind that, hey, when I was growing up, we did Aarti to the Credit River. Yeah. So when they get older, they'll be like, hey, we should continue doing that, right? Because that in essence is how any of these traditions pass on, is that you see it when you're a kid, you participate because your parent brings you. And then when you get to a certain age, there's a switch that just flips. And whether it be middle age or whatever it is, and then you start realizing, no, there's a reason why we did it, and I'm going to continue doing it as well. And I think the more you do it, the more of this internalized shame that I think a lot of Hindus feel, because you brought it up in your point about when you grow up in a school system where you can't wear on a bindi, of course, when you come to a Western country, you're not going to want to do anything. And I think a lot of, like, I had that growing up. Any Indian Hindu that grew up in North America at some point probably was like, okay, I'm just not going to do that, or I'm not going to wear on my traditional clothing or anything like that. And I have to say that with kids of my own, I am so happy to see that now within our school systems, like, we can talk about the traditions that we are a part of, the Hindu tradition, what we do for Holi, Diwali, like any of these things, you can talk about it and share. And that goes a long way of ensuring that we're not ashamed of just expressing what is perfectly natural to us. This is who we are. This is what we believe in, and we're not doing anything wrong. So kudos to you. Continue doing it. Next year, I hope I can make it out, because I haven't been able to, but I did see when all the controversies came up last year and again this year, and I know it's probably going to happen again for any type of outward expression of Hinduism, but to all those listening, just continue doing it, because you have the full support of many Hindus around you.
Thank you, Shawn. And there was this one question that constantly kept coming up, and I'm going to close this podcast with answering that one question, because it is my personal reason and my belief, and that is the reason why I do it the way I do it. A lot of people said, if you're just doing Ganga Aarti, you can do it in a temple. If you're doing Ganga Aarti, you can do it in front of the pool. And I thought about it. Somebody also recommended, and this was not a negative comment, somebody also recommended do it on a beach. But my answer is, the reason why we do it next to a running water is because it is the time where you remind yourself whatever has passed has passed. Let bygones be bygones. The people who have completed the circle of life, let them be. If they are reborn, pray for their ease in the next birth. And if they have not been reborn, pray for their moksha.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Take that moment to pray for that. If you've been hurt by somebody, let the hurt be gone. Let the moment that has not come yet, you don't know what it is. The moment that has passed has passed. Just live in the present. And sitting by the river for 3 hours and reminding yourself is a very, very, I think, a long form of meditation that we do once a year, because we are super busy. We don't have the time to meditate and look inward and help ourselves heal. And Shawn, being somebody who organizes this every year, I cannot tell you how many people come to me and hug me after the event and they cry. They actually, like, I choke up sometimes myself and they're crying, because it's very overwhelming as an organizer to see a reaction of that nature. right? But they come, they hug me, they cry. Senior citizens, young kids, single kids who don't have a spouse and they cannot take their old parents back to see the Aarti. But the parents want to do it. It's on their bucket list. And now they've completed a task on the bucket list without having to go back to India. These kind of things, or sometimes your parents pass away. You be there, but either you're too late, or right, by the time you reach, they've already left this world, or they've already been cremated, and you never get a closure. And then they come and attend this Aarti and they find a closure. And when we talk about these things during the Aarti, I think it's a moment where everybody pauses and takes a moment, because when somebody passes away in India, and this happened with me once too, right? You go and rush. You're like in this adrenal mode to complete all the rituals, right? Because you have no connection to Bharat anymore. You don't know how things are working. You're figuring your way out, getting everything settled in, taking care of the remaining parent. And then because you're on vacation for 3 weeks, when you come back, you kick right back in to work. You never have that moment to sit and cry and let it go. So that Ganga Aarti is actually intended for people who have left us to come and rethink about them and just let it go. So that is the reason why we do the Aarti on the river, because we meditate when we be there. And Manas Puja is a very nice form that was given to us again by Sri Adi Shankaracharya. His book, which is called Saundarya Lahiri, read it. I would recommend to all the people who have all these questions, pick up his book. Manas Puja is a very unique form of puja where you can do it within your heart. You don't need anything. You don't need an Aarti. You need nothing. You just need your heart, your body, your mind. That's it. So I follow the same technique. If you have many questions about why we do the Aarti, the way we do it, should we do it or not do it, I recommend come attend it and then come meet me. And I'm willing to hear, I'm willing to change things, I'm willing to adapt, and I'm willing to listen to your ideas. But please, my question is to attend it and not make a judgment from far away without coming and watching it from end to finish. Right? So thank you again, Shawn. I would love if we could connect for another podcast. I think we're going to talk about some of the questions that people ask me, because I feel like you have a very different perspective than what I have. And I will get to learn so much from you.
Certainly. Not a problem at all.
So we will definitely connect for another podcast, but thank you so much. And you have a wonderful day. And I hope to meet you soon again.
You too. Take care.